Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Infrastructure Network. My name is Chad Smeltzer. I am your host. Today's guest is Brenda Regal, who's with Dig Prevention Consulting, and Mike Novakowski, who's with EV Construction. Thanks for joining me, everybody.
Morning.
Thank you for having us.
Brenda, give us an introduction about what you're doing in Dig Prevention Consulting and how you got
Well,
into that industry. Sorry.
well, today I basically advocate for contractors. It doesn't matter if you're in an association or outside of an association. I'm just here to fight for contractors. But I have 26 years experience as the executive director of the National Utility Contractors Association of Pennsylvania, which is basically the Pennsylvania chapter of the National NUCA. Um, I've been fighting for contractors on various issues throughout the years. So many I can't even remember them all, probably. But I have been recognized. I do have 12 years experience at the both the House and the Senate chamber of the legislature here in Pennsylvania. I've been recognized with several awards. Nuka National gave me their We Dig America Award for the effort that I put forward in Pennsylvania. Lots of legislative government relation awards from them because that's my background and experience. So I have a lot of lobbying experience, but I'm mostly fighting for contractor issues.
Yeah.
HOPAC was an example of one where PennDOT shut it down, and we fought for 6 years to get the use of the HOPAC back. So
Awesome.
that's my background.
Thanks for joining us. I can't wait to dig into some of that, literally. Mike, you're up.
Thanks, Chad. Appreciate joining you guys. This company, EV Construction, has been around since 1945. I've been around it since 1988, right out of college. The interesting thing for me was, I had multiple opportunities to join different companies when I graduated, and I made a really great choice in that. I've been given tons of opportunity to rise up the ranks and to take a leadership role, and I'm now fulfilling the role of CEO and president. But along the journey, there was such an educational experience around what did I want to be a part of and what do others want to be a part of. And so part of the claim to fame for EV construction is standing out head and shoulders above others in our industry for how we do business.
Yeah.
I remember years ago, I was picturing in my mind a bunch of penguins sitting out on an iceberg, and they're all in their little black and white tuxedos. And I go, this is the contracting community, a bunch of people that all look the same, this commodity services provider. I go, I don't want to be that.
Yeah.
So I'm picturing myself as the penguin with the yellow bow tie, who's just stands out from everybody else. So part of what we've brought to the industry is a level of energy that is around right brain leadership, this idea of the emotional, the artistic, the passionate, the people-centric contractor who people want to be a part of, where Mondays and Fridays are no different in their mind, where they go home at night. I talk about how do we attract people to our industry, and the idea that if our children of our employees want to work for us, that means our employers are going home really happy and excited about what they do, and they're going to attract that talent.
Yeah.
So a lot of what I've shared, we ended up writing a book about it, but a lot of what I shared is the aha moment of when we go relational, when we strive for meaningful relationships, when we try to become an oddity instead of a commodity in everything we do in construction, you can stand head and shoulders above everybody else. So I think our margins are better, our backlog's better, our retention's higher. The actively engaged employee is the norm that you see around here. And for me, that's super exciting to talk about. And I challenge not just our construction industry, but all industries to don't live in commodity. Don't put yourself like you're just about price. I hate that.
Oh,
Nobody wants to be hired based on
ooh,
price.
that's a hot topic.
Yeah.
Doesn't that just lead into this subject matter of the lowest responsible bidder? I
Yeah,
mean,
we
perfectly, because I can tell you from my contractor's perspective over the years when I first started, their concept was, well, I don't need to advertise because I'm the lowest bidder. Okay. I don't need to make a website because I'm the lowest bidder. I'm not selling anything, blah, blah, blah. It took me years to get them over that.
Oh man,
Years.
where you guys been my whole life? All right, so
Well, and I have
go
to
ahead,
share on
go
that.
for it.
The relational side, when you go to, I'm going to do a public works project, low bidder gets the job, and that's all there is to it. Well, we had a local municipality that hired us for our hard bid. We were low. We did the job, but then when we showed up and how we did work, the engineering staff and all that fell in love with our people, the way we did it.
Yeah.
And the next job comes about and they're like, dude, we'd love to give you this next job. We'd love to negotiate, but our, requirements are to hard bid and low bidder gets it. Well, we went and we bid it. We understood that. We came in second.
Yeah.
But these people wanted us so bad that they went through the low bidders bid with a fine tooth comb, found a couple little things and went, sorry, we got to throw you out.
Yeah.
And they got to us. So even in the sense of, if you have a raving fan who's a public entity where you think it's only about price, it doesn't have to be. I benefited from the fact that we had relationships that looked for a way to get us there.
Yeah. Wow. I tell you, I didn't expect all that, but yes, we are talking about low bid. And that's one thing I've been very passionate about since I've gotten out of the construction world and started trying to fix procurement. That's kind of my history. I've watched all these construction projects get, ruined by inexperienced contractors. I mean, literally, or the material didn't work, or the application didn't stick to the wall, the manhole, for example, like all this bad stuff that was happening. I'm thinking to myself, there's no accountability out there. And this low bid process is really destroying potentially our infrastructure if it continues the way it is. If you think about this throughout the country, how big this problem could be, right? It's everything. Every city is focused on lowest price, lowest price, lowest price. So what do you think your infrastructure is going to look like? What's that mean to our infrastructure now, right? It's look at the way it's all crumbling. Did it even last 50 years? Did it even last 70 years? That kind, or 100, that kind of stuff. So we have a lot of challenges now in this, in construction. We got the low labor out there, that people can't, hire enough people to do construction correctly, or at least have the right staffing to do that. And then we also have, a low bid process, procurement process that is very discouraging in some situations to contractors to even want to bid on projects that are out there. So good stuff. I can't wait to dig into this a little bit more. First, what I'd like to do, Brenda. Okay. Yeah. Why did you want to get into construction? What was the driving, like, what did you have a family history there? Like, what's going on?
Well, I do have a family history in construction. Ironically, my father was a superintendent of an electrical company called Hurry Brothers in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, now out of business. Um, um, but he was a 50-year union man, I'll call him. Okay.
Yeah.
Worked for the union labor. And so every day, being the superintendent, he would come home with um, his blueprints, and he would have them all laid out on our dining room table, and he would bring all my brothers around. Okay. Because I had three brothers and I had three sisters, so I come from a big family, but the three brothers would go around the table and they'd all be standing there, and dad would be explaining the blueprints to them, and I'm just like, well, hey, I'm interested.
Yeah.
So I would, wiggle my way in there as the youngest of the family and kind of just listen and observe. And every now and then he'd take me out on a job site to see what they were doing and whatever. Originally wanted me to be the first female electrician in Pennsylvania, but the union wasn't into having women at that time. So that was an issue.
Yeah.
But so I just kind of went into the, whatever fields were available for women. Ended up at Votech school because I wanted to have that business background. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Tried to do computers and ended up being a hairdresser because that's what it was like. That's all that women were allowed to do. So I went into that. I was successful at that. Had my own salon. Then I had a legislator who walked into my salon one night and he needed his haircut. And he was like, you have a computer on your desk? We don't even have computers at the legislature. And next thing I know, I'm working at the legislature,
Wow.
And I had a great time there, and I learned a lot through the legislative process. And I worked for a great legislator from the Pittsburgh region, Mike DeWita. And he became a senator. And when he went to the Senate, I followed him to the Senate. And I just kept moving up the ladder slowly and followed him. But we worked really well together. And someday I'll have to have you meet him and have him on your show.
Yeah.
He's fascinating to listen to. He really is. But so when he left the Senate, I was like, oh, now what am I going to do? And I went and I picked up the local newspaper the one day, and it was just like, oh my gosh, here's a job that's just right down my alley. I love construction. And so I applied, and there were a lot of applicants, but I guess because I had legislative experience and that's what they were looking for, I ended up winning the position and served in that position for 26 years. So um,
Wow. That's a
it's,
great
that's,
story. Wow.
yeah, it's a long story, but it's
No,
interesting.
it's
Fun
great.
story.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a very diverse background, and in the legislative part is something you don't get a chance of. Like Mike, he could use something like that, right? The legislative side of understanding what's going on out there. So, Mike, how
Yeah.
did you get into construction? Like, what's your history?
Well, I think it was in my blood. I had a great grandfather that was in construction, but then my dad was actually a cop, and he came home from work miserable. He was a juvenile detective. He hated it,
Oof.
and this idea that I'm going to grow up and be a cop, no, wasn't going to have anything to do it. So, as a kid, building tree houses and always wanting to build stuff. I was in a vocational training program in high school where we did residential construction and framing, and I had a senior level teacher, carpenter, who took a liking to me, put me in charge as a foreman of a group of high school boys, framing up this house and doing. Gosh, we learned how to laminate and trim and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And he goes, "What are you gonna do after high school?" I said, "I don't know." He goes, "Well, there's a program here locally for construction management." And so I did that. I went into the construction management, did a bachelor's degree in that. During that time, I took my builder's exam when I was 18. So I was licensed and I was actually building. I put myself through college. I always had money in college, which was weird. No debt and had money and loved it because, man, if you could fix a car or build, you can save a lot of money in your lifetime.
Yeah.
So, after college, again, I was fortunate enough to land where I'm at still today. Along the way, realizing that education just has to be continuous. So I did an MBA. I spent 3 years at Harvard Business School as well. I've done significant like innovation management training, things that just allow me to look at things differently, and that's been really, really beneficial. But today I go, it's all culture now. It's all about people management.
Yeah.
Bringing people in who have the hard skills is one thing, but soft skills can ruin a company. If you don't know how to work alongside others, if you don't have emotional intelligence, those are the things that really
Mhm. make
make a difference in how well a company operates. So
Yeah.
the idea of me today as a visionary, looking at what are the new journeys we're going to undertake, and then having good integration and implementers within our organization to execute flawlessly, or we look for that flawless execution,
Yeah.
is really important to me.
Yeah, the good stuff. Both of you, amazing backgrounds. Two things, or one thing you guys both brought up, and it was probably two things, but one thing that I noticed: vocational schools. Brenda, you come from Pennsylvania. I grew up in Pennsylvania, York, Pennsylvania, really close to you. So, Votech was right there. We had industrial arts in high school. We had all these training. From high school, like how to fix an engine, like how to create a lamp, all these things.
Yeah.
Um, and I'll
No
have
longer
both,
in the schools.
yeah, and I'll have you guys answer this, but how do you think, are those still around? Do we have vocational schools? Do we, what's going on with the education system now? Brenda, you want to kind of chime in on that?
Well, we do still have VOTech schools here in Pennsylvania
Okay.
for sure. My alma mater is still going strong, and they've even added some additional courses along the way. I would love to have them do an equipment operator. Just haven't been able to get the local cat dealer,
Yeah.
really behind it. But and that's because there's a training school once they graduate from high school that they can go to that they're kind of connected to. So I don't know that they want to, take away from that school.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely vocational education is the right way to go. The difference between what you normally get in high school is they're kind of gearing you to, they gear everyone to, you're headed towards college. And I
Mm.
have to tell you honestly, I come from a rural area, so everybody here is not college material, and nor do they want to be college material. I could have been college material. I was a valedictorian when I graduated at Votech,
Yeah.
and I could have been, but I didn't choose to be. I love the business world. I love an
Yeah.
entrepreneur. I mean, I'm retired from Nuka, and here I am, an entrepreneur again.
Yeah.
I just can't get it out of my blood, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, and so they do that, but the Votech schools, they gear you towards business. I mean, I learned business math, accounting. I learned insurances. I can remember coming out when my husband and I got married, and we went to see the insurance about buying insurance, and the guy couldn't believe that I knew all the stuff he was talking about. He was just like,
Yeah.
how do you know this? And I'm like, oh well, I got this at school.
Yeah.
And he was amazed. So it's just geared different. It's gearing you. Everything is towards running a business, and that is what you need. Even if you don't become a business owner, you need to understand what a business owner does, and how your work as an employee affects that whole business. That if something you do out in the on the job site could completely destroy your company, especially with the OSHA fines the way they are
Ooh.
today,
Yeah.
and now we've got damage prevention fines that are on top of that. So, it just really adds up for a company. And I think it's really great that if every employee could understand what it takes to really run a company, it would really be an asset. Mike, you could probably talk
I
to
was
that.
gonna say,
If you
yeah.
wrote a book, you can probably talk to that.
Well, and
Good transition. Go ahead, guys.
no, I think Brenda, the one thing that we talk about, we use this language, this IRS language. You said we want to hire employees who are more like 1099s than W-2s. And
Yes.
for people who don't understand that, a W-2 is I sign up and I just show up, I punch the clock, I do what you tell me, I get a check, I go home. People who are on a 1099 are typically entrepreneurs, they're solo, single business owners. They show up in a different way. And I go, I want somebody who's on my W-2 who acts like a 1099,
Yeah.
I
somebody
love
who is a stakeholder, shareholder. We talk about, I expect everybody in our company to be organizational leaders. And what do we mean by organizational leaders? And that it's not the C-suite, it's not the president, VPs, all that. It's anyone who advances our company to a new level is an organizational leader.
Mm.
Yep.
And so we talk about the laborer that comes in, the green person who just came out of high school and is thankfully entering the trades. We look at them and go, we want you to be an organizational leader. What does that look like?
Yeah.
And going back to the training and education, the program that I was in is still there. There's others that have popped up. The one that I think I'm most proud of recently is ABC started our local chapter. We started the West Michigan Construction Institute.
Yeah.
Brand new, and it has exploded. Like the news about like the Mike Rose of the world saying, guys, it's not all about college. We got high paying, awesome careers in construction.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Get there, get your kids in there. There's no shame in it. There's a lot of pride in it. And we're watching that just explode. We built a new facility. We were asked to have people to train. We have tradespeople in our organization that go there and teach classes, as well as our competition. And it's the village that is moving these young men and women into our industry, and they're getting so excited about it. And it really saddens me to think about the lack of opportunity that Brenda had as a young woman growing up and not being allowed in. I can't believe
Mm.
the change just in the last 10 years. The amount of women in our organization and in the industry has exploded, and it's been so long overdue.
Yeah, you guys are spot on. Yeah, Brenda, you mentioned one thing about college, pushing everyone to go to college. It really gives you a disadvantage. What I've learned, being that I never went to college, I went right to work. I went right to like cutting down trees and learning that type of work. It was labor, hard labor. It was, I got to learn all kinds of stuff, and then I got to learn how to be a service tech as a pest control company operator, like how that business ran. And then I grew into being an entrepreneur. I didn't know much about business, but I knew I was making people money, a lot of money. And that's what drove me nuts. I was like, wait, I'm making everyone else rich. Why am I making everyone else rich? When you said it right, Mike, why isn't everyone a 1099? Like if you have the skills and the ability, like more companies would want to hire you because you're going to be more driven to do the hard work and get things done and do it professionally, so you don't, get OSHA violations and things like that, I would assume, right? I mean, that's the kind of scary stuff that's out there, but you got to carry insurance and all that stuff. But it is an issue where we need more training. As Mike, you were just saying, you put the training school in place. That's awesome. I mean, and you're inviting your competitors to it too. So
Well,
is that
and
what?
it wasn't us. It wasn't us
But it's
starting it. It was
okay.
ABC. But the reality is, all of us, the community of contractors, as members of ABC,
Okay.
kicked in to buy,
That's awesome.
renovate, and open this facility. But now it's self-sustaining and it's exploding. They're looking at an addition. They have a waiting list. I mean, they can only, let's say, they can push 50 kids through in a year. I don't know what the actual number is, but they're probably at 100 now.
Yeah.
Like they doubled the demand, and so the high schools are saying, there isn't a place to send our men and women who want to get into the trades. And now we have this place,
Yeah.
and we want our spots.
Yeah.
And that feels really good. That's
Yeah.
necessary.
That sounds like a lot of states need that, or at least regions need those kind of training programs, schools in place to really help us. And talking about future, we're talking about robots now. We're talking about like robotic construction
Yeah.
equipment being able to run. These kids are playing Xboxes, Nintendos, and all this stuff nowadays. We're going to see that transition to where you're going to have remote construction equipment at some point in time. There's going to be ways things are operated differently. It's going to head towards robotics, I assume, based on what I'm seeing on all these videos, right? So that's going to be like a future training for fixing robots, that are construction equipment that's, broken down and stuff. So anyway, my mind's just going, I'm just rambling on, but so a couple things. One thing we want to talk about is a little bit, we'll go back to that, but safety. Okay. Because that's what's big in the industry right now is trench collapses. I see people getting, fumes in their house from CIPP. The CIPP stuff's not, curing properly underground. This is different construction, underground trenchless stuff. But
Right.
you
Trenches.
start seeing this stuff of injuries and, issues, violations, there's a lack of training there, right? That's really what it's coming down to. So, Brenda, where can we start focusing on fixing this problem? Do you have any?
I wish I could give you the answer to that one. I have to tell you, in my career, it seemed like every time I went to a NUCA convention, I had a trench collapse, which was really sad.
Yeah.
Um, and they knew better. They had the training. We offered the training. And now, today, insurance companies all offer that training.
Right.
So I really don't get the excuse other than it's the culture of the company.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the culture of the company that you have to change. A lot of the older guys are still around. They're hanging on, and they're like, "Well, we never did that. And I've been in trenches for 50 years, and it's like it's never collapsed on me, and blah blah blah." And they send that guy in there, and wham, that's when it collapses because you
Yeah.
just don't know when that's going to happen. So how do you fix that? Education, education, education. You try to get it across to the workers. And I know I sent you on LinkedIn, Eric, and I'm going to slaughter his last name, Gireri. I'm not sure if that's exactly how he says it. I've known him for a year, but I still can't pronounce his last
Right.
name
Right.
right. So
Hey,
don't worry
I
about
do it all the
spelling it
time.
or pronouncing names properly. But he has a wonderful story. If no one's ever heard his story, he reaches out and he says, not only, that he was buried in this trench, but look what he did by not standing up as the worker.
Yeah.
Look what happened because he didn't say no.
Yeah.
Because
Within
he was afraid he'd lose his job.
within your company, Mike. Sorry, Brad, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
It's okay.
Mike, how are you? You got culture set up. People love working at your construction company, EV Construction. And how are you handling safety? Because you must be doing it completely different than some other companies out there.
Yeah, and I'll have to really watch my time and how much I share because we want to own safety in our market.
Okay.
We are number one by many different surveys by our trade partners, and but we've had a run of over 14 years of no lost time accidents.
Wow.
Which is unbelievable, and it goes way back to, as Brenda was alluding to, I'd say 20 years ago, I remember telling our people, every single one of you have a right to say, no, I don't feel safe, and stop work without any question.
Yeah.
So our employees empowered to know that. Secondly, when we have a corporate culture that says safety comes before profit, that means we put that in our bids. If we don't get the job because we put safety in it, well, shame on those who got the job because they didn't. But we got to a point where we realized that the people going home safe at night was the key, and we spun it. And I talked a little bit early on about right brain leadership, about making it about the emotional side. So rather than policing safety on our jobs, we've done things like a coloring contest. We handed out 11 by 17 sheets of paper. We put a title on it that said, this is why I want my mom, dad, grandma, and grandpa to come home safe at night. And the little kids go and they color this, and we now laminate them. We put them in our job site trailers and on fences. And it says, I remember one of them, my dad, Dan, little Maddie says of Dan, I love when my dad comes home safe because we can eat donuts together and snuggle at night.
That's awesome.
And I can walk out on a job site and I can look at Dan and go, he's got his hard hat next to him, or he's standing in an unsafe trench, whatever. Go, Dan, I can say 3 words: Maddie, donut, snuggle. And he's like, oh crap, grabs his hard hat, gets out of the trench, whatever. So this idea that why are we doing safety is not be mean, or not because OSHA says we got to do it, because we want people home safe at night. We care about our people. We have a moral obligation to be our brother's keeper. So the other thing I'll share is we changed our industry by being a leader in doing we call it our Alive 365 event, an annual event. We do a kickoff symposium. EB hosts it. We bring in a impact speaker, somebody who's been in a collapsed trench, who's was injured seriously, or somebody that experienced a death on a job that relives it in front of the audience. We do this whole day symposium, and then the whole week we pay for the training of all our trade partners. So literally, if you don't have CPR, first aid, powder actuated tools, trench safety, whatever it is, if your people haven't been trained, we'll pay for the trainer. You send your people, and the industry will be safer.
Wow.
And what has that done? That has got loyal, raving fans of our trade contractors. We don't call them subcontractors because we think that's demeaning. Sub means below, beneath, less than. So our trade partners look at us differently because we are caring for their people's safety and welfare out of our own pocket. So we spend tens of thousands of dollars. But for me, I can hire a person to train 40 people for the same price as one of my site work contractors has to pay to train 3 people.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, let's just get everybody in, and we'll take the hit because we're going to be safer. And our partnership, our relationship will bring us, we'll get to be a low contractor and still make the margin because people are giving us bids because they know we have better people, we manage the job better, we care more about them, and therefore we can be more competitive and be more profitable.
Yeah.
So it's really weird. People think that the only way you can be low is if you give up margin. And it's like, not if everybody tweaks things down and your people are highly engaged, super efficient, well-oiled machine. You can make money and be low bid.
Yeah. Well, trade partners, that's the name you call the subcontractor.
I love that.
Trade partner. I love that. I was saying the same thing, Brenda. I think that's everything you're talking about, Mike, needs to happen in construction. 100%. This is the kind of leadership construction companies need to get to. And not only that, you're talking about bringing best value to these bids is really what you're doing. You also know how to promote, and Brenda, you mentioned this at the beginning, like get your information out there. I think you have like 32,000 followers like on LinkedIn and things like that. You have a lot of like you're promoting your company in the right direction, that you are the best value for construction, and you're winning and still profitable. That's probably the biggest points to take out of this. Now, as we pivot to low bid, besides, obviously, we know that you're bringing the best value approach, and safety is key to these bids and different types of materials and stuff you bring. Where can we improve on these low bid processes? Like, how can we get engineering firms, for example, or the cities that we're working in to start changing their ways from low bid to a more best value solution? Brenda, you want to chime on that, or Mike, you want to start?
I mean, I could share a
Go
few
Go
for
ahead,
thoughts.
Mike, start.
it.
Well,
I'm like, oh wow, where do I start?
there's so many places my mind wants to go. So, how do we influence
Mm,
so that low bid and I like low responsive bid, and that's the key
There you go.
word, I think, is adding that adjective of responsive. And responsiveness comes somewhat from how well a pre-bid meeting walkthrough is done by an owner, so we really understand the scope, how much money is invested by that entity, and whether it's due diligence with the site, with how many soil borings they take, and all those kinds of things. It's the willingness for that entity to pay the right amount of money for the right thickness of spec and number of sheets of drawings, so that it's not a question.
Mm.
Like this whole idea of I'm going to give you a general scope of work and you bid it and I'll award to the low. Well, the game gets forced by us generals to only bid exactly what we see, nothing more, nothing less.
Right.
And then you're in this combative relationship later with the change orders, and everybody hates that too. So for me, it's like the cleanest, most thorough set of plans, vetting if you have the opportunity. Again, if it's a public bid and anybody can bid it, I'll go to a pre-bid meeting and go, there's 10 people in this room and six of them don't belong here.
Mm.
They don't know how to do the job. And I will back out.
Mm.
I just will not put myself into competing against, I'll call them the two men in a truck. Like they don't have a safety program. They have questionable even on insurance. Even going back to safety, we believe that when you find a company that has a really good safety program, everything else has already been made well. If you start up a business in construction, you don't jump on, I'm going to be the safest contractor. They don't. Like, I just need to get work. I'm going to do it, fly by night, seat in my pants, get it done, make money. And then I'm going to hire people and I'm going to start figuring out what HR means. And then I'm going to figure out, do I pay all my taxes or do I, and so they go through this whole process.
yeah.
And what we find is towards the end of becoming a really good company, then they start focusing on safety.
Mm.
So a lot of, owners will invite people and they'll look at their EMRs and they'll say, you're invited only if these are more maybe private entities and things.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to push that is a huge part of the qualification is, are you a safe working contractor? What is your EMR? What is your incident rates? What does it look like the last 3 years? Because these entities shouldn't put people on projects that are not going to be safe.
Yeah.
Wow, that leads right in. That is like I have to go
Go
because
for it.
I'm
That's
gonna
all
use
you.
a saying from a good friend of mine, Nixon Bellis with Sue LLC. He says we need to have engineers start designing for safety.
Ooh.
Okay. First thing that we have to do, we have to get subsurface utility engineering on every project. And all of that data has to be input into the design that tells them we use quality level D, we use quality level B here, use quality level A here where we daylight it. And here's the results of what we found as we daylighted that conflict area.
Yeah.
Okay. That in itself is going to improve safety right there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We have to ask designers, they should, with this mind, designing for safety, they need to start making their designs where their pay widths for trench backfill actually meets OSHA standards. I mean,
Mm.
they give you this little tiny area and it's like, I need to put a trench box in here. And so when you get that young contractor or that private contractor who's now going to come into the public works arena as low as responsible bidder, and he's trying to do that job, he doesn't understand that they didn't put the proper pay width in there for you to fulfill the OSHA safety standards to put shoring in. And then he's in the project and he's there like, oh, what do you mean you're not going to pay me for that whole thing? But I had to put a trench box in. And they're like, well, too bad.
Right.
That I've seen happen many, many times. And the other thing I think is we have too short of construction times. They really push contractors to the limit. that they don't allow for enough weather conditions or now supplies and material shortages and all of that. They need to extend those construction times so that we're not pushing constantly every day, push, 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 that they want to forget about safety.
Mm.
And those are my three areas that I think designs could improve on. Period.
I
Yeah,
yeah,
I
go
think
ahead, Mike.
there's
You have
another
another.
element too. There's another element too of the management process on an active job, and I would say our larger jobs, we end up having a safety committee. We pick men and women from each trade, and we walk the job on a regular basis, minimally weekly, and we do a safety audit, and we call ourselves out, and we reward for good behavior. And I'm not so sure that we shouldn't have that written in as well. Engineered in is that an outside consultant has to come in for a 2 hour whatever site or a review or whatever. Again, it depends on the size of the job, but we don't mandate it enough. It's kind of optional, and we have owners that say, "Yeah, safety is important." But if we said, "Hey, it's going to cost 10 grand more because we got to do this through a trench box," they're going to go, "Well, I guess I'd rather have somebody else do it." And
Wow.
that's the sad part is there's people that say it, but they don't believe it. And likewise, there's contractors that say safety is so important to us, and then you catch them all the time. We have a safety meeting every month, all hands in our warehouse. We have people come in. We talk about different topics. The top 12 things that maim and kill people are the monthly topics typically.
Yeah.
And we watch we have our people take pictures of bad behavior, bad safety, or bad quality, and they send pictures in throughout the month, and we pull those up, and we see our competition with their sign, with their trucks, whatever, and you just shake your head. And we got to go, that is not us. And the one thing I love telling our people is do the right thing when no one's looking.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's funny. We like to get away with stuff. I got to put a ladder up to this roof. I only got to go up there quick. I don't need to tie it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
We
Yeah, we do.
definitely lack
Mm.
specification quality. We lack accountability. We lack oversight. There's no doubt about it. In this whole process, from what I've been learning, and every day is something different. Talking to you is giving me more enlightening information about like what is actually happening, and as far as like what safety we should be implementing in these different companies, these construction companies. So this is all amazing information for everyone. I hope the audience and takes it and uses it. That's what we need everyone to do.
Yeah.
Implement these things. So we're running out of time. Brenda, how can people get a hold of you?
I can be reached at Brenda at dpc-pro.com, or my website, which would be dpc-pro.com as well.
Awesome.
So those are my two ways of reaching me, or you can find my phone number there.
Awesome. Well, look,
You can
you can
put my
Google
phone number
anybody
out to the
nowadays.
whole world.
Yeah. Mike, you're up.
Yeah. So Mike Novakoski, you can find me at Mike Nova, MikeNova at ev.com, or you can go on Amazon
I love
and
it.
find Become Unmistakable. Start your journey from commodity to oddity.
I love it.
It gives you a whole different perspective on how to show up differently as a contractor and kick some butt.
We need to get that book out there, man. I definitely
Yeah.
promote that. Mike, Brenda, it's been amazing. My brain is like overload right now with all this information and the way you guys are, changing construction. I mean, it's really, you guys are very passionate about it, and you're changing the way construction is happening now. So kudos to you guys, and thank you so much for joining us here at the Infrastructure Network. And I look forward to the next one because I already have ideas for a next conversation. So thank you guys so much. Have a great weekend.
Thanks,
All
Chad.
right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.